have
Randy,
a safe
we've got a
space
problem.
wherever
What?
they go.
Reality's here.
But of course,
He's trying to
that
crash the
takes a lot
party.
of effort,
Reality?
a lot of resources.
Who let him in?
You're sad that people are mean? Well, I'm sorry. The world isn't one big liberal arts college campus.
I don't have an agenda like I want people to do something. I need them to do something. I want them to avoid irrationality.
I guess what interests me is just like what interests everybody else. It's just sort of what feels real.
That was totally wicked!
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another edition of Real News in the Morning Time. It is 9:01 on June 26th. My name is Mr. Henry. David Shine Thompson sitting over there to my left. Could be y'all's right. Flying in like a ninja. Never really know where he's going to be coming from. That's what's so awesome about it. You'll see the color thing we have set up today. Yes, I will be representing the Republicans for today's show. Shine will be representing the Democrats for today's show. This is totally unintentional, by the way.
I lost a bet, so I have to represent the Democrats.
I got my what happens at the Fed. You can't see the bottom of the shirts, but it says stays at the Fed shirt. I'll give you a little, like all the boys that are going on. Yeah, see? Yeah. Hey, if you like those shirts, shout out to boy Richard Esparza. I'm sure he can get one set up for you as well. There you go, man. Cool shirts. We got stuff going on, red and blue, left to right. We got all the things covered here. David Shine Thompson, buddy. I'm pulling up the unified chat here. The unified chat's a cool little tool that my buddy Shine turned me on to a little while back. It basically takes the aggregate of every chat version that we have out there. We're on Minds, we're on Parlay, we're on Twitch, we're on Mixer, we're on Facebook, we're on YouTube. We're on all the things because Shine puts in massive amount of work behind the scenes to get that done. But buddy, man, how you doing this morning? Everything good on your end?
I'm having a great time, man. I'm having a great time. I had surf and turf last night.
Did you?
So like anytime from my house.
Oh, nice.
From my beautiful fiance, she made like 3 ribeye steaks and a whole bunch of shrimp and a whole salad full of vegetables recently harvested from the garden. It was a really, really nice dinner, and I had dinner with a friend. I had a great time last night, so I'm still like in the afterglow of having like a really fun time with a friend last night. And it's been a great week to finish it. We're finishing out the week here. It's been a great week for like me and you professionally. Like we had all these great meetings out in Nashville and had a really good time. I know for the Real News audience, you missed shows for a couple days. But we've had a pretty good week, or at least I have, and looking forward to things in the future as we move forward.
Hey, and jumping right into this stuff, greatest audience in the nation appreciation segment here. It's also Friday, too, so we'll do Open Lines Friday here at the bottom of the show, right around 9:30 time, my time, 10:30 time, Eastern time for y'all. Anybody has a topic they want to call in on 615-807-0619. That's 615-807-0619. Sean, I'll throw that number at the bottom of the screen here. Right around the 30 mark there. Any topic is fair game. Anything you want to bring up doesn't necessarily matter. You want to get full-on controversy, full-on conspiracy theory, we'll go that route. You want to talk about something we're talking about, let us know. Give us a ring. We'll talk about anything that you want to talk about. Greatest audience in the nation appreciation segment, though. Let us know how you're doing, what you need help with, prayer concerns for, anything like that at all. Anything going on in your life, anything you need to, we can really use the community's help to build this community. That's the reason why we do what we do. It was originally to create a space where we could have calm, cordial, open dialogue with those that we disagree with, so that when we do have disagreements, they're disagreements amongst friends and neighbors, not amongst enemies. It's vitally important for what's going on right now. The final step of that whole phase, not exactly sure yet. We'll figure that out as we go along. But the local stories here, let's get right into these. Nashville Mayor is he's still considering whether or not he will mandate masks for everybody. I picked up on this story because it's been a very interesting story, man. And Sean, I should have pulled this. And while I'm talking about this, see if you can pull this from somewhere. That story that Tim Pool was talking about, there's some state or some local municipality somewhere in the United States. Did you figure that out? You know what story I'm talking about?
You're talking about the segregated mask order.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. Yeah.
It's in Washington State, but I'll look it up.
All right, Washington State. There's somewhere in Washington State apparently this passed an ordinance that says like, hey, if you're a person of color, you do not have to be mandated to wear a mask. So it's basically just Caucasian white people that are mandated to wear a mask, and it's just caused a massive stir online. It's one of those ridiculous. Now it's just like, dude, whatever, man, whatever.
What it is it's a mask law or mask rule, or probably more likely it's a mask executive order. But there's an exemption for people of color.
There you go.
Does that make sense?
Look,
it's not like an order that only Caucasians wear a mask. It's an order to wear a mask with exemptions for people of color.
That's a better way to put it. But,
well,
but
no. That's what I'm just using their language so that I make sure I'm not putting words in someone's mouth. You know what I mean? That's the words that were used.
The odd thing about all this, though, man, is that if you really peer into something like that hard enough and long enough, you basically end up thinking, like, hang on, hold on, bro. So who wrote that? Who wrote that exemption? Is the person writing the exemption saying that, like, black and brown people's lives are not as important as white people's lives? Is that what the exemption's in there for? I mean, you could logically work yourself into that, saying if there's going to be a mandate, the mandate is there to protect people, protect individuals. Why are we not trying to protect those particular individuals? What's going on here? But whatever. One of the themes for the show today is from Thomas Sell, as far as I'm concerned. Virtually no idea is too ridiculous to be accepted, even by very intelligent and highly educated people. If it provides a way for them to feel special and important, some confuse that feeling with idealism. Back to the story at hand with the Nashville mayor here. This story comes from the Tennessean. Nashville mayor is considering apparently mandating masks for all. It's just he's getting pushback from a few of his people in his cabinet saying, like, how do we enforce that? What is the enforcement mechanism, Mayor Cooper? Here's the story. Nashville Mayor John Cooper is considering a citywide mandate requiring masks in public places in response to coronavirus outbreak that has, quote, accelerated its spread in recent weeks. No indication as to why. But the proposal has led to division amongst the city top health officials. Metro Health Director Michael Caldwell has dismissed mandatory masks as unenforceable, while the city's COVID-19 task force chair, Alex Jahangir, it's probably pronounced incorrectly, but we'll move on, appeared to support the proposal in what he described as a, quote, difference of opinions. Quick pause here. I'll say this one more time. My personal feeling on something as far as the mask wearing is concerned, I don't know, man. I see it as just the right thing to do. I mean, it's a personal courtesy. It's a courtesy to your fellow man. It's one of those things where, like, if asymptomatic spreading is a legit concern, if it is legitimate, if the science backs that, I say, fine, dude, let the facts lead you where they may. Let the facts lead you to something to the extent that, like, if it's a courtesy, that's why Eastern cultures do this so much. It's a courtesy to your fellow man because the facts are going to say that asymptomatic spread isn't a thing. Do it because it's the right thing to do. Do it because you want to protect your neighbor. Why not? Because what ends up happening inevitably is when you jump into something like this mandatory mask wearing, some people that may have been inclined to do it before because it is the right thing to do, the courteous thing to do, in a libertarian sense, the responsible thing to do, some people that would have moved in that direction initially are now going to say, if for nothing else, just to spite the governmental mandate, I'm not going to do it. Back to the story here. It says during a conference call with the members of City Council on Thursday, one of these advisors said that the mayor was exploring a mask mandate through an executive order, a public health order, or possibly a council vote. Metro Health Director Michael Caldwell, he's worried a mandate may be met with backlash. And I would tend to agree with you on that. You get stuck in this situation. What do you do then? I don't know, man. Like, you hope for the best. You absolutely hope for the best. You convince people through science. You convince people through factual information that it's the right thing to do, and you trust your citizens to make the responsible decision.
You could rely on freedom.
Right?
Maybe. You could give people the best information you got and then go home instead of use force, government.
I think that's the only thing you can do. This is what Michael Caldwell said. I think face mask usage is a point that could inflame and cause more tension. He goes on to say, I'm looking for other opportunities to move our community along so we can see more and more people wearing face masks rather than giving a blanket order I will not be able to enforce. I think that's the biggest part at the end. He says, rather than giving me a blanket order that I'm not going to be able to enforce anyway, why don't you give me enough information to work with? Do exactly what Shine just said. Just present factual information out there, and that's all you can do. That's all you should do. That's all our leaders are called to do. But Sean, I think you had the best word yesterday, dude. We have some feckless leaders right now. Leadership, man, I'm telling you. There's a great story I got briefed I'm going to touch on here in just a second that basically goes on to say, like, dude, one of the main problems we have right now is a lack of courage in this society. A lack of willingness to do something that's right out of, I don't know, fears of repercussions? I don't necessarily know. This guy thinks that it's actually because of an underlying belief system. Now, compared to Nashville Mayor John Cooper, Tennessee Governor Bill Lee is going sort of the opposite direction on this. Same direction, Bill Lee. I will say, look, love or hate Bill Lee at this point, he's at least consistent with the majority of the way that he approaches this stuff. Tennessee reports that some of the lowest Tennessee actually reports some of the lowest mask usage in the United States, apparently, with only 10% to 20% of residents say that they always wear a mask when going out. Now, I find that stat slightly suspect, and I only say that because it came from the University of Washington, and I'd like to see the numbers of the actual polling on this. I mean, I think, what is it, 1,200 is the number? That's like industry standard for like a decent poll size. But for most people polling, at 1,200 members of 1,200 people in the state of Tennessee is not going to be a decent way to get 10 to 20%. Well, I don't know, man. It depends a lot on where you are.
Let me throw out an anecdotal thing, though, Grant. Let me throw out an anecdotal thing. About a mile from less than a mile, 2 blocks from my house is the left-leaning grocery store. It's like a co-op. You know what I mean? Like, people pay membership. It's like all organic food, and you can buy whatever. You get what I'm saying. Like, you're picturing this is like a local Whole Foods that's about the size of a CVS. If there was anywhere where there'd be even a plurality of people wearing masks, it would be there. They even have, and they're really cool about it, they'll offer you gloves and a mask when you come in the door. But obviously it's not mandatory. But when I go there, it's not even a plurality of people. You get what I'm saying? Actually, And I've heard, someone did tell me, though, that, in the nicer areas of town, like out North Shore way. Sorry for all of you who don't live in Knoxville. I'm throwing things out there. But you all have your nicer areas of town where people in there, maybe the demographic is like 45 to 60 or to 80 or something like that. And it's people with large houses and nice grocery stores and things like that. They said at the nice Publix off North Shore, almost everyone wears one. So I don't know. So those are a couple anecdotes there where either a lot of people have older parents who are retired or things like that in that area, or they're in the middle age and maybe have either a health issue that would actually be a problem if they got COVID, or a health issue they would afraid would be a problem if they got COVID. So I don't know. I think it's a lot of age thing, not even left and right. I think the left and right thing may be, it's like kind of it, but the older people I talk to are more likely to be way more okay with the mask thing than younger people. And it's very odd. And I want to say too, I wear a mask when a business or a friend would tell me that I have to do that in order to be there. But I don't wear one outdoors. But I carry one with me in my back pocket in case someone would feel better around me if I was wearing one,
Well, plus you got that awesome STS9 branded one too. You know what I mean? So you can actually rep some
Soundtrack Section 9.
Yeah, man. But I will say too, at least in where my wife and I are right now is out in the Franklin area, and there's a Kroger that's literally, you could throw the football. I could throw a football over the mountain, Sean, just so you know. But I can throw a football a couple times and hit the thing, right? But there, the overwhelming majority of people wear one at least a few times that I've been in there the last couple of weeks. Target right beside it the same way. By the way, Stephanie said in Facebook, I just take her word. I don't want to out too much who Stephanie is. I guess y'all can tell by context, but she knows what she's talking about when it comes to the school system. Take my word for that. Obviously, she said school officials don't know how would we enforce masks. What makes the government thinks they can enforce it for a city? It's a fantastic point. That's a fantastic point, right? Like, how are you going to force it in the school system, let alone for people out there minding their business every single day? There's no way to enforce it. There is no way to enforce it. So it seems like if you take this in a cost-benefit analysis perspective, the fact that there is no way to enforce it at all at a governmental level, school level, whatever else, the only thing you might end up doing is inflaming the vitriol that's already been going on and therefore dividing people further, like you just said, Shine. It might be a demographic-based issue. It might be a contextually based issue. It might be a proximity issue, man. It might just be a friend-by-friend issue. Whatever the issue might be, you are adding an element into it that it will necessarily become a Democrat-Republican issue or a right-aligned, left-aligned issue if you make it a governmental issue. Yeah? At least I think that part is absolutely correct, man. So I don't know, man.
You turn someone into the enemy when force gets applied.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it causes more trouble because, some people would say there's so much short-sighted thinking right now. It's so short-sighted. Like, we should make a law that everyone should wear a mask. Well, how much force is necessary to enforce that? Like, if someone's not wearing one, do they go to jail? Like, what is it? Do they get a ticket? Like, that's what's so weird. What's the next step? Okay, we have a law. Great. So what happens? Do you lose your driver's license? Right?
Yeah.
Could you be, like, told to stay, like, could you be put under house arrest? I mean, what is the appropriate force? That would be my question to Mayor Cooper. Is like, okay, fine. So we're talking about making a mask. Because if you don't put enough enforcement, the rule or law is meaningless.
Yeah.
And if you have a disproportionate response, then you're losing the point. It's like the whole point was protecting people, you know? I don't know. To me, you get what I'm saying? It's very...
No, I absolutely understand
And this is a really good... for people who don't think about the effects of making a law in general, this is a good Rosetta Stone, right? These are the things you have to think about when you're saying this is a law I would like to see. Is how, the force that would be used to enforce it is very important. And it has to match the need and necessity of the law. But I don't know. Very interesting. Very bad. I don't know. I think he's virtue signaling, to be perfectly honest with you, Grant.
Who, Mayor Cooper?
Yeah. Like,
oh, yeah, totally.
Like, we might make it a rule. Maybe.
we might make it a rule. Maybe. No, you're exactly right, man. By the way, to finish that story out, Governor Lee says that he encourages Tennesseans to wear masks, but is not considering a statewide mandate for masks, again, because it wouldn't even be applicable, is the way I understand this. It wouldn't even be applicable to the actual counties that would probably need to be applicable to anyways. It's just the way that Tennessee operates. The decision follows Lee's preferred approach to the pandemic, which is urge residents to take steps to protect themselves, but do not require them to do so. I think we've done a decent job of articulating there's reasons why. Stephanie said on Facebook she is not giving lunch detentions for no masks. LOL, that's awesome. Do they still have open campus, off-campus lunch out there, by the way? I'd like to know the answer to that question.
Dude, Grant, no, they got rid of it, bro.
No, did they really?
Yeah.
For real?
It was always dumb for them to have it anyway. What a liability.
I'm not disagreeing with that.
That was who thought of that?
You're totally right there. It was just such an awesome thing.
We won't even say where we went to high school. We won't even say, but they don't do it anymore. They don't do it.
If you want to know where Sean and I went to high school, they had an hour. It was an hour block, right? It was an hour 15. I think it was just an hour block. Whatever it was. It was off-campus lunch. I mean, literally, you could just go anywhere in the city you wanted to.
You didn't sign out or anything. You just left school.
Like, you kind of murked off for an hour and came back, and they just sort of fingers crossed. Hope
some of us came back after an hour.
Some of us did.
Most of the time.
Oh man, that is true. Some of us came back most of the time. That was some of my favorite experiences, though, man. I just messed around with the Bouchon brothers.
Danger is fun.
Yeah, well, that's why you get to know each other. Anyways, off-campus lunch used to be a thing. Wonder if that's still a thing. Going on, though, quick updates, and then I want to get on some of these national stories. Bonnaroo has been canceled for 2020 here in Tennessee area. That's not much of a story. Literally, the update to that story is just 3 paragraphs long, and it's about just that they had initially delayed it until September 24th through the 27th, and then just canceled it outright. The headliners, they went on to say, this is what made me feel a little bit bad. I don't know who any of these headliners are except Tool. I mean, whatever. That's just where I am with my.
But think of the. See, I look at a lot of festival lineups. So, Grant, Bonnaroo is the Everyone Come festival. So,
okay.
So theoretically, Bonnaroo would only have at least one headliner that you would like. You get what I'm saying? And
yeah, it makes total sense.
And then a headliner like Tool that may get you to buy the whatever $1 million ticket to go to Bonnaroo. It's so expensive. But anyway, but they're offering something for everybody. There's another guy, somebody who's looking at the lineup and says, "Oh, that's my favorite band." Some other person that you don't even know. So nobody goes for the whole lineup. In fact, most people think that like a third of the lineup sucks or something like that. But it's but what it is different people with different taste. That third is different for everybody.
All right. Because I looked at two of these people.
Good job, AC Entertainment, local Knoxville business, making lots of money and making Tennessee look good by putting on Bonnaroo, by the way.
Because two of these people I looked at, Tame Impala and Lizzo. I don't even know if those are groups or those people. I have no idea, man.
My fiance likes Lizzo a little bit.
Yeah, so it is Lizzo, not Lizo, because I was about to say Lizo. and I
How
was like,
should I know, Grant? You know?
All right, so Bonner has been canceled. The only reason why I brought that story up, though, is because I want to know from the audience, man. Like, speaking about the mask stuff we were talking about before flowing through the show here, would you all still go to Bonnaroo if they had a waiver type situation going on? Right? Like, I just want to know where people are personally at with this stuff. Like, I don't want to use this as a strange way to gauge how people are feeling about this narrative or otherwise. If your favorite band in the world was playing and it was a free ticket type thing, would you guys still show up if they made you sign a waiver in the traditional sense of like, hey, if something happens here, if you contract something here, we're not liable for it type thing, right?
I'd sign 4 waivers. I had tickets. I had tickets to see my favorite artist this month in a giant cave venue in Middle Tennessee.
Oh, cool.
And they were going to do a digital light thing on the entire cave. And you sit in the middle of the cave, and it's like not a dank, nasty cave. It's like a nice cave.
Yeah.
It's a nice cave. And then there's a stage, they film it, and everyone sits in the middle, and it's very big. And then they project all over the ceiling and and then have lights all over the place. I was supposed to go to that. He's my favorite. It's a guy named Tycho, like the toys. I really like Tycho, the band. And I would have signed my life away, bro. I would have been like, I don't care. I don't care. I don't care if everyone's coughing on me while I'm there. I don't care if I'm surrounded in a circle 360 by people coughing on me. As long as I can look up at these lights and listen to the music, I would have been good. I would have had a great time. Hey, by the way, I was so wrong. In the chat, they're saying that off-campus lunch is still a thing, and it's a sacred cow that will not be slayed.
For real.
And Kel in the chat says, I don't like huge crowds ever, so she wouldn't go. But
yeah, I get that. The big crowds thing is just it's sort of anxiety inducing, right? Like, no, I totally understand that. I get that for sure. Hey, speaking of big crowds being anxiety inducing, by the way, a major issue for our Nashville folks out here, Middle Tennessee area, has been this fairground situation. All right, so there's been fairgrounds out there. There's an MLS team that stands for Major League Soccer. For those that didn't know, yes, that's a thing in the United States, by the way. Major League Soccer team was supposed to be coming out to Nashville. They're here. They're playing in Nissan Stadium right now, which is the Titans NFL stadium. There's been a big controversy going back and forth as to how much the city or Tennessee or Middle Tennessee or who knows, the city taxpayers are going to pay to get this MLS team here. Part of that controversy has been a stadium that was going to go in the fairgrounds. A lot of people are against it. Some people are for it, I suppose. I haven't quite found who these rabid MLS fans are here that are actually supporting it yet. So whatever. Anyways, a major court ruling yesterday came down from our own boy, Jim Roberts. And I say our own guy, Jim Roberts, because Jim Roberts is also the dude who's helping us push this property tax repeal narrative with this referendum issue for goodgovernment.com. By the way, the number 4, goodgovernment.com. Go check that out. Let everybody in the Nashville area know. Does incredible stuff. We covered that yesterday. Might hit more of it later on today's show. But the update here is that the city, Metro, violated an Open Meetings Act. They were supposed to give it a 5-day customary notice as to when these meetings were going on. It only gave a 48-hour notice. The Open Meetings Act says that if improper notice is given, then the action taken during that meeting is void. So that's part of the reason why I wanted to bring this story up, Sean, is not necessarily to focus so much on the stadium issue, because that's majorly important to Middle Tennessee folks. But for those overall, dude, it's just nice to be... It's nice to see when local government is held accountable to its own rules. You get what I'm saying? I know that sounds like an absurd thing to say, but seriously, man, that's where we're at now, where I have to somehow come out and champion and herald a decision like this, where it's like, you all set the standard for, these are the rules that you set for 5 days. You gave a 48-hour notice, and you specifically dictated, city metro government, y'all specifically dictated that if you didn't give a 5-day notice, anything that happened within that meeting is void. It's your rules. It's you wrote them, man. You at least have to live up to the rules that you pinned. Goodness gracious, man. So it's nice to see a win like that when it comes down. Now, at this point going forward, I don't know. They're going to have to do a rebid. They will not have to do a rebid, but the sports authority will have to reschedule a meeting, provide adequate notice, and conduct another vote on the contract. So it's just a delayed time period to get all this stuff out again, right? Hey. RealNewsRadio.live, RealNewsRadio.live. That's where we're going to find all the stuff Real News related. That's Facebook, that's Mixer, that's Twitter, that's Parlay, that's Minds, that's
ThinkSpot.
What is it?
ThinkSpot.
ThinkSpot. There you go, man. Yeah,
hey, if you want to be brave and try to go on ThinkSpot, you can. I think it's the coolest little thing, and I hope it gets really popular, but you can sign up for a newsletter with your email. And anytime we posting on ThinkSpot, you would get an email. So if you want to make sure you get Real News' content, no matter what happens in the future, go to realnewsradio.live, go to our ThinkSpot account. The link is right underneath where the video is playing, okay? And then sign up for the newsletter. It's pretty cool, and also a great way to go around the censors, especially as we move into the future. Because if we can just email you content, that'll work really well.
Hey, and look, man, it's a time for celebration, too, because today is technically the last day of Real News shutdown on Facebook, because that's what ended up happening to us. We got throttled, y'all. We got a throttle strike on us for a solid week. Tomorrow's the time that lifts up, so you actually see some stuff that we post back on Facebook again. But this is why Shine's doing what he's doing. This is why he's branching out and hitting almost every possible avenue that we have to push this some information elsewhere, dude. Because it's like, I don't know, man, there's a mass exodus right now from Facebook and Twitter. That actually rolls perfectly into our next story. There's a mass exodus, bro. Have you seen, I'm asking you directly, Shine, anybody else on Facebook, have y'all seen Have y'all seen the mass exodus from Twitter for the parlay stuff, bro? Like every other tweet that I'm seeing right now.
I've at least seen the rise of parlay.
Yeah,
I've at least seen that has been huge on Twitter. Huge. And you know it's huge because the hit pieces started coming out about parlay yesterday. Basically using the same script they used with Gab. But part of the problem for people already talking about parlay is there's way too many normal people on it.
No, wait, what does that mean? What do you mean, normal people? Like,
well, what I mean is like,
verified?
So there's a big difference between Gab and what Gab was when the first people were getting kicked off Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube and all going to Gab. It was a bunch of like more extreme people. It was easier to paint them as,
I see,
some of the things we can't say. Things that people normally say that are unfair about people on the right. Does that make sense?
Like it was like an alt-right haven, basically, is what they were saying.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's harder to do that because almost every Republican member of Congress is on parlay.
Yeah, that's a good point, right?
Most of the major newspapers that aren't like the New York Times are on parlay. You get what I'm saying? Like Fox News is on parlay. Like it's mainstreamy-ish, you know? It's very interesting, but the big tech monopolies are already out swinging, but they probably should have gotten in on that over a week ago when Brad Parscales started this. I think Brad Parscales, the Donald Trump's campaign manager, I think he did this. I think this all started with him. The tweet that got banned, I don't remember what the content was, but the tweet that got erased from Twitter about that Donald Trump tweeted, the one that they got rid of. After that happened... Oh, I don't want to get in. I'm sorry. I don't want to steal your thunder. But Brad Parscales said, your days are numbered, Twitter, and posted his parlay account. And then everybody, and like Devin Nunes is talking about it every day. All these people that aren't weird people. They're just not left-leaning people. They're not weird. They're like the most mainstream people there are.
I'll tell you this much, man. Like if the response from the right is something to the extent of like, you know what, dude? Like, instead of using the overreaching arm of the federal government to just snuff this stuff out, why don't we just like take a free market approach to this and just go to a different platform? Like, if enough of us jump, if we PewDiePie this situation, if enough of us jump, or if the right people jump at the right time, I think the market will take care of itself. Dude, that is so beautiful to me. That is absolutely the way that these situations should be handled all the time. Now, luckily enough, there was a situation, or at least a platform like a parlay. We'll see what they turn into, man. I mean, you could have a situation like, remember the end of that South Park episode, dude, where they build Walmart up so much that it takes over the town, and then they burn Walmart to the ground. At the very end, Randy says, let's go shop at the local, Ace Hardware or something. And then they do this fast sort of like montage timeline of the Ace Hardware growing and growing and growing. And then the next thing you know, Ace Hardware is devolved unto itself and it's burning and they're singing Kumbaya out front. So it's like they took the Walmart, they just turned Ace Hardware into the Walmart, and humanity does that, dude. We repeat the same mistakes over and over and over and over. So at least for the time being, parlay might be a great example, another shot to jump to, but hey, fingers crossed before we have that.
From the chat, Kel says, leaving Facebook on July 4th, lots of talk about it. Joy from the chat said, "Hey, I was curious about Bonnaroo. Thanks for the update. Also, love you calling out those deep state players in our local government." And Daniel Stone says, "Yeah, I would only do a festival with a VIP RV pass. I don't blame you."
Oh, nice. Hey, by the way, Sean, there's that tweet down there. Another one of Trump's tweets has been censored. That's the third thing down in the national stories. If you can open that up, you can see actually the tweet that Shine was referencing. This was actually a tweet that the first way that Twitter started censoring, they would just put a little blue exclamation point down there. There's sort of like a check out here. There might be some misinformation going on type thing. Now, I'm not sure what y'all are seeing on your screen. There's a delay on the Facebook here until I can see it as well. Initially, though, if you had not clicked on learn more before, the only thing that would have been shown as far as Donald Trump tweeting was this thing that says this tweet violated the Twitter rules about abusive behavior. And you could click on something that would actually reveal the tweet to you. Here's the tweet. Or rather, this is what Twitter said about it. The following tweet, this tweet violated the Twitter rules about abusive behavior. However, Twitter's determined that it may be in the public's interest for the tweet to remain accessible. Well, it is coming from the President of the United States because it's like, well, you have to say that, Twitter, because there was just a court ruling that said this guy's Twitter account is deemed a public forum. Therefore, the President of the United States cannot kick people off or ban or block people from his personal Twitter account. That was the court ruling. If that is indeed the court ruling, the courts of the United States have said this is basically akin to the New Age digital public forum. So it's odd then that Twitter would then have the right to continue going forward to censor or exclude some of that particular speech, I suppose, because it's their forum. So does Twitter now own the public forum? Like, what is happening? I don't understand any of this. I do understand the extent that like Twitter is basically lying about the idea, saying, well, we've deemed in the public interest. You didn't deem this in the public interest. Get out of here with that trash, man. Somebody else deemed it on your behalf. You're just making it look like you have more control than you actually do over this entire thing. Whatever. Here's the actual tweet, though, as I'm sure you can see. Trump said there will never be an autonomous zone in the Washington, D.C. as long as I'm your president. If they try, they will be met with serious force. I don't know what I guess the abusive behavior is the serious force part on the back end of that. But it just shows you the slow scale ramp up of what's going on, at least inside of Twitter, and why we were talking about the Twitter exodus before. And Shine, I don't know. Let me just ask you straight up, man. Do you think we play an O'Keefe video? I think we're usually good on this platform, right? When we play Project Veritas stuff, right? That doesn't get us shut down.
I think we would probably. I think O'Keefe is one of those that wants his information out. We're learning Facebook, and we're learning Real News audience. There are people who don't want you to play their videos, and the algorithms pick up on that. And then there's people who feel like their videos are advertising. And I think O'Keefe is one of those people, mostly because they're donation-based. Yeah. You know what I mean? They're a nonprofit and things like that. So more information, I guess, for James O'Keefe would be better. But we can try it, and we'll see. Well, do this then, man. So in the notes section there, you'll see Tuesday's exposed Facebook release. Okay, so you see the little thing that's like bold underlined. See the Twitter link underneath that? It's about the second one down that starts with Tuesday's hashtag exposed Facebook. The Twitter link that's right underneath that actually includes a video that does a pretty decent job of catching people up to where this most recent Project Veritas exposed Facebook thing has come into. And if you did the update on this now is it's about a minute into this video as Shine's pulling this up. Project Veritas is everyone knows who Project Veritas is. I don't think I need to explain that, especially not in this program. We all understand what Project Veritas is, what they do, what their stick is, where their niche lies. Now, recently they went in over a half a year or a year longer period or something like that, started, interviewing or doing what Project Veritas does with Facebook employees. And obviously, as one would expect, which is why I somewhat ironically put in the title of this program today, does Facebook censor? ? We all know the question is just to what extent and upon whom? In which political ideology do they censor more than others? So I don't think anything you're about to see in this video is going to be too surprising at all. It's a very clear bias against one particular side of the aisle or one particular worldview or whatever else, man. It doesn't matter. It's there, though. It's just this lends some credence to the reasons why. Just start from the very beginning. We'll play a minute into this, and I'll give you the update. About after a minute to a minute and a half, there's a lady here who's a senior HR representative that specifically talks about that guy that got fired a while back. You know what, man? Just go ahead and play the video about a minute to a minute in. A minute and a half in, and I'll update from there. But go ahead. Oh, no worries, man.
start that from the beginning is what I meant to say. I kind of was confusing with that. But as you'll see here in just a second, Leslie Brown is her name. She's the one that I'm eventually wanting to get to with this.
Why did you decide to come to Project Veritas?
We're deleting or actioning 300 posts a day. And so if you magnify that by however many content moderators there are on a global scale, that's a lot of stuff that's getting taken down. So I saw some discrepancies. I saw some evidence of bias.
We bring the game to it could work on the left side.
Yes.
But the left...
How? Yeah, how?
Freedom of speech is the main one.
That's what you said. Facebook favors the left.
They do, 100%.
Oh, we work with a lot of liberals.
Yeah.
I would go in there with a MAGA shirt or a MAGA hat, I'd get my ass beat.
They were able to fire him without having to worry about discrimination.
Due diligence, right.
No,
yes,
no,
well, because it's a white man.
Yeah,
white man, so no problem. He can't do it that easily if there are other issues.
Oh, it's easier when they're...
White men.
Okay.
No one has the white man's back anymore.
You're saying because he's a white male, there's more
that if
leverage.
he chose to sue the company, that most attorneys would just laugh.
Talk to me about what we're looking at here.
Basically, it's okay to call straight white males filth if in the context of for not supporting the LGBT.
Hate speech is allowed if it's, quote, intended to raise awareness for pride LGBTQ. So hate speech is allowed in some cases, but apparently not others?
Correct.
And I think we have some tape of
you can stop it there, Sean. And I think that's the point I really wanted to get to was just that the culmination of everything you just heard, or rather culminating in that final statement of basically like hate speech is allowed as long as it's serving an intended purpose. And this actually matches with sort of contemporary statistics as well. I mean, as of March 2020, a poll of Americans, this is done by Pew Research, 3,000 respondents showed strong bipartisan support for criminalizing speech. I'll say that one more time. As of March 2020, is Pew Research data here, 3,000 respondents showed strong bipartisan support for criminalizing speech. About 70% of those surveys supported government, quote, restricting people's ability to say things they deemed as misinformation. Nearly 80, that's 70% of people. Nearly 80% of people endorse conscription of healthcare professionals, i.e. forcing people to serve in the healthcare industry, much like where, other countries do for military service. Government seizure of businesses and property was supported by 58%. This stuff is wildly problematic, y'all. Government seizure of business and property was supported by 58%. This is 3,000 people polled, by the way. Keep in mind, over 70% supported the detention of COVID-19 patients in government facilities. I guess that's the answer to your previous question there, Sean, of like, what do we do with these people? How do we enforce it? Well, apparently 70% of people polled said throw them in jail. The majority of those surveys did not change their opinion, even when told their views may violate the Constitution. The majority of the people polled did not change their opinion, even when they were told that their opinions violate the Constitution. Now, importantly, some of this stuff still matters in the court of public opinion. Back to the story that we were talking about before. That lady that you saw at the end there, Leslie, whatever her name was, I forget what it is, Leslie Brown. She's a senior HR business partner at Facebook. Facebook outsources a lot of this stuff. She's a senior HR business partner. She was the one that made the comment of James Delmar. I don't remember his name exactly. He was the guy that came out a while back and was trying to answer the question of why do we not see more female representation in coding? Why do we not see more female representation in software engineering? And the guy compiled a whole bunch of statistical evidence, surveys and data, and it doesn't matter, man. He compiled a bunch of it and put it in a little memo that went through Facebook and said, like, there are very clear reasons, variables by which we can actually determine why there's not female representation. It's not a sexist thing any more than personal choice is a sexist thing inherently, which is asinine to even think that. This guy, James, basically put out this internal memo and said, like, calm down, take a beat. This is not sexism. You're going to go insane. You are going to go insane if you pervert equality of opportunity with equality of outcome. There is no way to do that properly. You cannot do that, man. And that's what we're trying to do as a society right now. We're trying to take equality of opportunity, which is a decent thing to aspire towards, and push that into equality of outcome. It's not going to work, man, unless you remove free will. Well, it'll certainly work then. If you don't have a choice in the matter, well, dude, yeah, man. I mean, China has a quality of outcome in some sense because they just tell you what to do for a living. Goodness gracious, man. Back to senior HR business partner Leslie Brown. She was saying that this guy, James, who sent around this internal memo saying that there's other variables, scientifically supported variables, as to why we don't have female representation in software engineers. Now, we can change that if you want to, but just understand what the reference point has to be, what the factual information dictates to you. This lady said it doesn't matter. It didn't matter what was coming out of, how factual his information was. None of that mattered. Because he was a white Caucasian. He was a white Caucasian, goodness gracious. He was a white cisgendered male. Now, since her making that statement, she has been, quote unquote, fired, released from employment by Facebook for making that statement. Now, you could go one of two directions here. You go a direction of like she basically just outed Facebook and let them know exactly what their tactics were the entire time. Or you could say like, I don't know, bro, maybe Facebook just doesn't like the idea of truth telling. Or maybe she violated some clause she signed into later on. I don't know. Maybe there's an actual real legal reason as to why she was fired. It's not a good look right now for someone to say what was said by that senior HR person and then within 48 hours afterwards be released, allegedly, or we could only presume for the very thing that she said. Now, interestingly enough, I have an article here.
Can I add one little wrinkle to this too?
Yeah,
to show some balance in reporting. I did hear that there's a group of I was going to say Facebook, but it's YouTube. There's a group of African Americans suing for discrimination against African Americans on YouTube. And I think Facebook may be in that lawsuit too. But it's this idea of trying to curate everything. While they're doing that, they're discriminating. You get what I'm saying? If they're not deleting content based on it being like threatening or illegal, then I'm sure they dabble in discrimination, whether they knowingly do it or not. You know what I mean? Because the intent is not. You get what I'm saying? Like their principles are about this curation, and I think that's the problem with all of them. And they end up stomping on people. Wasn't there a lawsuit 2 years ago about YouTube censoring LGBTQ content?
Yeah.
That was, I mean, so what I'm saying is like she's pointing out a group that's getting some issues. There's other groups that have had issues, groups that you would not think would have issues, right? And I don't think it's necessarily because there are people or as an institution they don't like any of these groups, whether they be white people or African Americans or LGBTQ. It's because they don't have as a guiding principle, this is an open platform to let people speak. So you're allowing people who might not like LGBTQ or African Americans or white people, or pick your category, because it could be like religious people too or something like that, or people who are into monster trucks. Who knows what? It could be anything. You're allowing people the wiggle room to bring their biases to work and push their own biases about how the culture should be on other people. You get what I'm saying? Like they're creating the space to allow maybe people who actually are racist or bigoted or whatever to have the space to go around discriminating people they don't like in the name of curation, in the name of creating a better platform.
I totally understand that, man. I absolutely understand that. I think it's like the underlying belief has overwhelmed everything else, right? To the exclusion of everything else. Go to that. Sean, do this real quick, man. Go to the show notes here. Why the facts matter. Why facts don't matter to people. All right, I think this does a perfect job of illustrating a little bit of what you were just talking about, man, that it's not necessarily that people are willfully looking past factual information. And I say that again because it's important that you understand what I mean by this. It's not necessarily that people are willfully looking past factual information. It's just that they have such strong adherence to their underlying belief system, they're almost compelled to not consider factual information in the same way that I say we once used to. Right? I think that's a little bit of what Sean's talking about too. It's not, I don't know if there's like nefarious motivation or any type of malintent possibly. Dude, it could just be like this underlying belief system is so strong that it pushes them outwards. Look at this here. So frustrated with COVID-19 restrictions on a daily life, a friend said to me, I just want to know the truth. Like many people, my exasperated friend and others I know are mesmerized by frightened by daily news reports on the number of COVID-19 cases. You can cite all the data you want, such as these from the United States. And then he goes on to put these two charts in here that you're looking at in front of your face right now. This is a chart that shows positive tests and negative tests. And you can see sort of this inverse proportionality as the positive tests dip down. Look at the massive way that it's like an exceeding rise in the negative test there. And look at these dates that we're talking about here, dude. We're talking about June 19th. What's the day today? What is the date today? It's 26th? Okay. So this last data here is coming from the 19th, 20th, something like that. So we're talking like just a week ago. Look at these charts, bro. Look at the chart down below that one. The currently hospitalized charts, the exact same proportion. Scare, man. Now, maybe if you want to, zoom down to the United States or something, we might have a slightly different situation going on, which is arguably very true. But again, the point that this guy is trying to make, like the stats don't matter necessarily. It's all good news. It's good news all around, this guy is saying. But you turn on the television, you get a different message. People worried about sending their children to school this fall, yada, yada. He goes on to say that you will find that these people are well-intentioned as you are, but they're looking at factual information in a completely different direction. This isn't to say that someone should directly sympathize with or empathize with a delusion. This is not to say that someone should even try and justify someone not taking into account factual information. But look at it this way, as Einstein puts it. Whether you can observe a thing or not depends on the theory which you use. It is the theory which decides what can be observed. Whether you can observe a thing or not depends on the theory which you use. It is the theory which decides what can be observed. This person goes on to tell the story about this individual that was living in North Korea for a while. Her book's entitled Without You, There Is No Us. And she's an American who was born in South Korea, or became an American citizen after her family moved here, learned English, spoke English her entire life, and then actually went back to North Korea to teach English at an elite all-male school. And at some point, they were sitting down for lunch or something like this, and she was guarding her language and guarding her language and guarding her language. And eventually, some of the students, perked up and asked her, "Hey, what's it like in America? Who makes the decisions over there?" She said, "Our country is not for the president, but for the people. The president is just the face, the symbol, but the real power belongs to the people. The people make the decision." Now, if only if what she said was true. Have you noticed how many Americans are thinking like North Koreans at this point, though, that they seem to be reassured and relieved that their favorite politicians behave a little bit like North Korean despots, issuing field guidance. Field guidance is the thing where Kim Jong-il used to, and Kim Jong-un now walks into a room. He walks into a factory, is the best example. And he looks at a factory where they're producing, I don't know, widgets. It's the classic example in law school. Widgets not being a real thing. It's just a hypothetical producing something. Doesn't matter. But Kim Jong-un will walk into a manufacturing facility and say, change that, put a valve there, make this L turn into a bit more of an oblong ching. Don't make it a 90-degree turn. Oh, he has no clue what he's talking about. How in the world is a despot leader at all qualified to tell you the best way to manufacture something? He's not. It's a little bit of the point. He's issuing field guidance because what he says is true necessarily. He is an emperor. He is a god to these people. It doesn't matter whether he's qualified or not.
What he says is true by law.
By law. Therefore, he is the only one that is ultimately qualified. Even if physics say otherwise. If physics say the laws of the natural universe say otherwise, he is therefore qualified in spite of that, man.
Science be praised.
That's right. Now, in North Korea, there is no path forward that doesn't begin with 100% obedience. This is the point of this guy's article. The point of this guy's article is basically you can't knock people necessarily in this time period. I know it's terribly frustrating to say, but you can't knock people necessarily in this time period for not adhering to factual information. The underlying belief system at this point are far more important. And a lot of people attach those underlying belief systems to an individual, i.e., cult of personality. In North Korea, there is no path forward that doesn't begin with 100% obedience. In spite of what we know to be true, man, this woke identitarianism, there are a lot of people that I'm friends with personally that do not have a choice. They simply do not have a choice as to whether or not they're going to follow one political ideology over another. And I say that because the woke identitarians have told them you must identify with this, i.e., because fill in the blank. The way you look, the way you are, the way we label you. There is nothing to be discovered, only edicts to obey. To serve the despot is the only purpose of life for North Koreans. Now, this article goes on to make a claim that some might consider to be out of bounds, unfounded. Whatever it is, what it is. Andrew Cuomo is a beloved politician here in the United States, despite having issued field guidance sending thousands of nursing home residents to their death. Even in May, after news of his disastrous nursing home orders were widely available, Andrew Cuomo's approval rating was still at 81%. I'm not making this up. All this stuff is linked in the show notes. Anytime you see something underlined like that, hover your mouse over it, see if it's linked. It'll go to the story that it's linked to prove it. 81% this guy was still had approval rating for. That is in spite of some factual information that should probably turn people off to them. You following now where we're at right now? Now, often it's true that facts don't matter. And that's a little bit because of the confirmation bias we have going on for sure. In short, I think the point of this guy's article is that the only way to get to your friends right now is that you must overcome the human tendency to filter and ignore evidence. To our confirmation bias. It's more comfortable, y'all. It's easier. It's what we're almost designed to do sometimes. Our biology almost leads, like it pulls us sometimes to go towards the path of least resistance because we just wanted, man, I hope so. I don't want to deal with the controversy. It means I have to grow and change my mind. If facts won't convince what's left, though, instead of facts, consider this. Consider helping people to uncover those beliefs that are driving confirmation bias. I would argue in a loving manner, meeting people where they're at, as Christ did and set the example for us. Find people where they are, help them uncover the underlying beliefs that drive their confirmation bias, in spite of the factual information that we can eventually get to later on. John Adams wrote this: there is danger from all men. The only maxim of a free government ought to be to trust no man living with power to endanger the public liberty. Stop putting y'all's faith in these public institutions, man. Stop putting y'all's faith in these public leaders. I guarantee you, they will fail you. As much as you have failed yourself and you have failed your loved ones, bro. And I'm telling you, okay, Sean and I did this Bible study yesterday. Sean brought it to my attention, man. Major shout out to him right now because this fits perfectly. We have this conception, rather a misconception, about what sin actually means and how we fail some individuals. The misconception being that it's just some moral indiscretion, that we've let ourselves down, that we didn't live up to a particular mark that we should have hit. Shine brought to my attention yesterday, bro, the real way that you miss the mark is what's called a transgression. When you betray the trust of another individual, right? It's the betrayal sense. It's the breaking of that bond. It's the trust that someone has put into you and then I put back in, that they put in back into me. When you betray that, that is a transgression. The more trust, unfounded, we put into these public leaders, y'all, the more we're going to see when they do something wrong as a direct transgression against us. Y'all starting to follow now? And when we see our public representatives transgress against us, dude, I cannot tell you what that does to the human psyche. We start turning on each other because we feel like we've been personally betrayed. And then every single conversation we have becomes yet another straw on the camel's back, and we're just waiting for the one that finally breaks it. And then we want revenge. Then we want retribution. Then we don't seek for actual justice. Then we don't seek for what's right. Then we seek just to get even. Then we seek to feel better, and we fuel that fire, and we continually build that beast that drives that cycle of revenge. It drives that cycle of retribution. It is not justice. It is not right. Madison actually wrote in the Federalist Papers, man, like even our own Constitution will not save us from some of this stuff. Dude, this stuff is born into us. He said a mere demarcation on a parchment of constitutional limits of the several departments is not a sufficient guard against those encroachments which lead to a tyrannical concentration of all the powers of government in the same hands. So I'd leave you with this, man. With a simple substitution, we expose a core belief shared by many Americans. They believe that centralizing decision-making is effective in unknown, complex situations. If you don't follow what I'm saying, Hayek was famous for saying that. He made a famous observation. His observation was this: during To the naive mind that conceives of order only as the product of deliberate arrangement, it may seem absurd that in complex conditions, order and adaptation to the unknown can be achieved more effectively by decentralizing decisions. To the naive mind that conceives of order only as the product of deliberate arrangement, it may seem absurd that in complex conditions, order and adaptation to the unknown can be achieved more effectively by decentralizing decisions. What he's saying is, if you decentralize these decisions, if you become solution-oriented, if you take the power out of the people that will inevitably fail you, you stop looking for revenge so much, man. You stop that process. You stop the perpetual downward spiral of wanting to get one over on your brother, on your fellow man. And with that simple substitution, we expose a core belief shared by many Americans. They believe centralizing decision-making is effective in the unknown complex conditions, and they want their politicians to do something for them. Tucker Carlson just last night, man, had this massive piece. He went on for 22 solid minutes about how Trump's going to lose the re-election because he was elected to do something for his people, and he's just not doing anything right now. In a very surface level, I think Tucker's probably correct. I.e., the syllogism goes, Trump was elected to do something. He's not doing anything, therefore equals he's not going to be reelected. Okay. Why don't you just scratch that entire equation and stop thinking of it in the traditional sense, man? Stop putting your faith in these folks. Those who have entered such a space don't need more facts. This is what I'm getting back to again, why people don't listen to facts anymore. This is the space we're in right now. The perpetual trade-off space, the revenge-seeking, retribution-seeking space, because we don't recognize that we're being transgressed against the ones that we're putting so much power into. This is where we are, and this is one of the reasons why we don't recognize facts anymore, because those underlying belief systems drive so hard. It's knitted into our DNA almost at this point, right? It's not just that we're compelled to believe it. We cannot disbelieve. And those that have entered into such a space, they don't need more facts at this point. I know that's terrible to say because I'm kind of anti-Ben Shapiro at this point. Facts don't care about your feelings. Ben, that's true. They don't. Doesn't mean you're going to win the argument, does it, buddy? These people don't need more facts.
When people have really strong feelings about something, they don't care about your facts either.
Exactly, man. These people don't need more facts. They're probably exhausted processing the ethereal, self-proclaimed truths of politicians and experts. Before introducing more facts, I would say engage a friend in conversation to uncover the point to the eternal truth of liberty. That would be my advice for right now. As much as you can, man. And I say this all right now, dude, to end the show with you. And I've been rambling a little bit, so maybe we'll go a little bit long because this last part I really want to get out this morning. The Solzhenitsyn prophecy. The Solzhenitsyn prophecy. I'll do this as quickly as I can. This is how we'll start. Such a decline in courage is particularly noticeable among the ruling groups and the intellectual elite, causing an impression of loss of courage by the entire society. Solzhenitsyn was a guy that was invited in June 8th, 1978 to Harvard graduating class. He was speaking at the commencement address. And the guy didn't speak English. He wasn't an American. His address was actually given in his native tongue of Russian, and he had to have an English translator there. This is in 78, by the way. Apparently it was not well received, like at all. It was not well received. But this guy Solzhenitsyn, he was a brilliant novelist. He spent several years as a political prisoner in the Gulag in Soviet Union. He was a strong Orthodox Christian as well, and a fierce critic of atheist communism and Soviet tyranny. Now, his writings exposed the corruption, cruelty, and injustice of the communist regime that had come to power in Russia in the Bolshevik Revolution in 1917 and would remain in power until 1989. Again, keep in mind real quick, he says the main problem we have today is a lack of courage to say the things that need to be said. In 1978, the Cold War was raging. The U.S. was still reeling from humiliation in the disastrous war in Vietnam. Anti-Americanism was flourishing both abroad and at home. 1978, anti-Americanism was flourishing both abroad and at home. Sounds a little bit familiar, yeah? Many Americans, particularly young Americans, had lost faith in their country, its institutions, and its principles, its cultures, its traditions, its way of life. Some proposed communism as a superior system. Many suggested what had come to be known as a moral equivalency between American democracy and Soviet communism. Many in 1978 had suggested a moral equivalency between American democracy and Soviet communism. By 1978, to suggest such equivalency had become a mark of sophistication, something to distinguish one from the allegedly backward Hicks and Rubes who believe that the superiority of America to the Soviet system. Dude, that is just like, have we changed since 78? I'm starting to wonder seriously, man, if stuff is if we don't even really have a political spectrum, we just have a big old circle that people eventually just fall back on top of, man. You just like, you take the far right and you take the far left and you just overlap them on top of each other. They kind of look pretty similar to each other sometimes. And I'm starting to wonder, man, if we really do have a linear structure even at the time. 78, dude, 78. This is what's happening. He's basically saying academia was taking a sophisticated approach to moral equivalency. In 2018, the most read text on college campuses was the Communist Manifesto. Goes on to say, this guy's speech at Harvard, though, was not meant to prop up America or the West, or on the contrary, it was a severe critique of the American West. One might even say there was a prophetic rebuke and a warning. Of course, Solzhenitsyn did not argue for the moral equivalency, much less the superiority of the Soviet system. He hated communism in all its dimensions, and he loathed the gangsters who ruled the Soviet empire. What he faulted America and the West for generally was for its abandonment of its own moral and especially spiritual ideals and identity. He viewed the West's weakness, including its weakness in truly standing up to Soviet aggression, as the fruit of materialism, consumerism, self-indulgent individualism, narcissism. In a word, the immorality into which we had all allowed ourselves to sink. We come to embrace a false idea of liberty then, conceiving of it as doing as one pleases rather than the freedom to fulfill one's human potential and honor one's conscious duties to God and their neighbors. And I'll finish with this. He went on to say that a decline in courage, this is exactly his quote, what I started with. A decline in courage may be the most striking feature which an outside observer notices in the West in our days. The Western world has lost its civil courage, both as a whole and separately, in each country, each government, each political party, and of course the United Nations. Such a decline in courage is particularly noticeable among the ruling groups and the intellectual elite, causing an impression of loss of courage by an entire society. Of course, there are many courageous individuals, but they have no determining influence on public life. So I submit to you today, he said, that despite the American victory in the Cold War and the collapse and disappearance of the Soviet Union, nothing has changed that would diminish the force of relevance of this guy's words. The virtue we lack, and it is an indispensable virtue, of courage. We must recover it. Our young men and women must regain it, not to defend us from a hostile foreign power with armed and nuclear weapons, as it once was, but to protect us from a far more dangerous foe, a deadly, truly deadly enemy, our own worst selves. See how this whole thing, what I'm saying, y'all, how all of this stuff fits together? We start with a second ago. At the very beginning of this whole little rant that I just went on, man, is the fact that nobody pays attention to factual information more. It's because of the underlying belief system. Take a beat, pause, get people, try and meet them where they're at. That underlying belief system that puts so much faith and power in these people, bro, that like it's just like, it's not going to get you anything. And as these people that we put up there, that we trust them, that we want to trust them, as they do something wrong, as we are inevitably bound to do so because humans are fallible, they transgress against us. And as we feel betrayed, we want that revenge. We want that retribution. And then we end up turning on each other. And how easy it is to manipulate that situation, bro. And then it's the very end of what just happened here. A warning from a guy that just fled Soviet Russia. Dude, please don't. Please don't. It's not. We're not defending ourselves from a hostile foreign power right now. Not in 2020. We're trying to protect ourselves from a truly deadly enemy, our own worst selves. A populace of 330 plus million individuals that is seeking only retribution and nothing else. And I would just caution your word of warning right now, man. Like, don't do that to yourselves. Don't do that to your friends and family. There are cracks showing. There are cracks showing right now. As Dave Rubin said, my buddy Shine liked this tweet this morning, brought it to my attention. Dave Rubin said there are cracks showing, -- in a good way. This stuff is breaking at the foundation. This inherently self-refuting philosophy is exposing itself unto its own believers and indicating that it is just a husk. It is just the husk, the shell of a fruit. There is no substance to that. Stop eating, man. This fruitless stuff that's just going to make you hate your neighbors. Yeah, man, I don't know. Lighten up a little bit, yeah? Positivity, hope, meet people where they're at. Don't seek revenge. Forgiveness. Love, compassion. Signing off for today. My name is Mr. Henry. This has been Real News. We will be back on Monday doing it big. My boy David Sean Thompson, man, doing incredible things here every single day, making sure y'all have the words as much as possible out there. Stick with us through the weekend. We may have some updates, may have some other interviews coming your way, Nashville-related stuff, property tax-related stuff. Love all y'all. In all sincerity, seriously, take this message for today out there in the world with you. Spread that love and positivity amongst everyone else. Don't hit them with facts first, man. Understand where they're at. All right? Meet them where they're at. Expose those underlying beliefs. Love them. Bring it into the world with love. That's what we do. All right, man. We're out. See you tomorrow. Monday. See you Monday.